Are your dryland crops outpacing your irrigated crops? We're going to talk about what's causing this and how to fix it on this episode of Blueprint to Yield. Hi everyone, Mike Evans here with Calibrated Agronomy. I'm with Luke Holst and Jared Cook. We're talking about irrigation, really. It's the stem of it. It's an observation you made on the way out here. I mean, I know you're too cheap to buy a plane ticket, so you drove out here from the great state of Idaho.
Oh yeah, tell the world, Mike. Go right ahead. Tell the world.
It was a question that came up. Are the dryland crops outpacing irrigated crops? And it's an observation you made, and I want you to kind of explain what you were seeing on the way out here on Interstate 80, right, through Nebraska.
Right on I-80. Yeah, as we got a little bit east of Sydney there, from Sydney to about Kearney. I think that's how they say Kearney. No offense to the Nebraska folks. I'm sorry. I'm from Idaho. I don't know how to say all your town names, so don't judge me. But yeah, from Sydney kind of east, I noticed on several different occasions where what was under the pivot, under the iron, had a lighter, kind of a pale green look to it, compared to the dryland corners that were just beautiful, even, deep dark green. I'm like, man, what's going on here? And so this is not an uncommon observation. It was actually kind of unique for me to see what we've been hearing other farmers ask about.
Yeah, and I think, if anybody's first time listening, you're in Idaho.
Yep.
And you basically have to irrigate to grow crops out there.
Yeah,
so
we don't survive. Yeah.
Water is paramount to what you guys do.
Water's king.
Why do you think that's happening? Why that observation you made, which I think is a great one, and we get growers talking back, Luke and I, we've talked about it, same kind of concept, man. Mike, it's not that there's not meeting expectations. What do you think's causing that?
Well, I think it's, you look at this core of water, it's what your water is, your soil becomes. And I don't know if there's a natural change in our water quality that's occurred over the last couple of years that we're not accounting for. Be honest, I've seen that in our own irrigation water in Idaho. I mean, we're typically starting to trend slightly higher in chloride, slightly higher in bicarbonate. I'm sure that's migrating east. And so unless you're looking at your irrigation water as a fertilizer, you neglect the mineral nutrition load that water delivers to the farm. Because think about it, like in our system, it's not uncommon to put 8 million pounds of water per acre per year.
8 million pounds.
8 million pounds.
How much water is that?
Just let's cowboy math and say it's about 26 inches of water. So if you're 13 inches of water, you got 4 million pounds of water hitting your soil. That's why I say what your water is, your soil becomes. That's 4 million pounds that's going to hit that soil and going to change or alter the characteristics of the soil. Because think about it, your water has mineral baggage. It's loaded up with calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium in some situations. There's some water, I think Luke will comment here in a bit on the sulfur load of some waters. That water delivers minerals. Mm-hmm. There's also some antagonisms. You got high, sometimes salts, high bicarbonate. Those are all antagonistic to mineral nutrition availability. So unless that's accounted for in your fertility management, I think that's why you see under the pivot looking different than what the dryland corners are seeing.
No. I mean, that's not perfect water.
No, it's not perfect water.
And water's not water. And Luke, it kind of goes into what you see on the data side a lot with water. I mean, we've done, I know, how many samples have we done so far this year? Quite a few.
Over 500.
Yeah.
Just rapid soil and water comparison tests.
So yeah, you brought up rapid soil, and I think that's a great thing that we've learned with New Age and their rapid soil testing irrigation. Just explain our methodology there. I think this is what helps unlock Pandora's box, really, is that rapid soil and irrigation water. If a guy's out there listening to this first time, walk them through like how we're starting to learn about what Jared just talked about.
Yeah. So we've kind of got a method that's, I think, kind of unique to our group. But using the rapid soil test, which the rapid soil test is a paste extraction soil test. So when we actually test for the minerals, we're not using an acid. All other laboratory testing, they use some type of a weak acid. Just real quick, let's start with ammonium acetate and Bray. They use a little bit stronger acid. It's supposed to mimic what is going to be freed up as time goes on in the soil through biological activity, weathering. But that's not really what minerals are available in the water solution now. So the rabbit soil test just uses water, and then they pull the water through the soil, and then you get a look at what minerals are available if the soil is wetted, if it rains, if you irrigate today. So we'll take that, and the first step is to look at the deionized water. So just distilled water, no mineral baggage, completely clean, 7.5 pH, just straight water.
Yep.
And then that shows you what minerals are. I like to use an example of if it rains today is how I like to explain it to guys. This is what is going to be free in solution to get into the plant. And then we take that a step further and take the grower's irrigation water and run that test to, if you irrigated today, what would minerals are going to be free in solution to get into the plant? And it is wildly different. And it all depends on the water quality. So that's how we set that up. And then we take it even a step further and look at, let's treat the water, or let's put fertilizer in the water and mimic what we're going to fertigate. How does that change the balance of cations and anions when we're watering with fertilizer?
Yeah, and I think that amending thing is kind of a unique thing, and a lot of it comes from you, Jared. And I think one question I'd ask you is, and this is just a spitball, so I'm going to put you on the spot, but what percentage of the Midwest do you feel like or think is using any fertigation at all with their pivots?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say 60%.
Okay.
60% of the irrigators out there, they're putting fertilizer
through it.
Yeah.
And of that,
if they're not, I'd be surprised. Why wouldn't you? You got a 1,400-foot spreader out there.
Yeah,
you got to be using it.
I think you're trending high on that number, personally.
Oh, serious?
Yep. But
I've been wrong before.
Yeah. Well, Kelly told you that.
Yeah, I'm still feeling that wound.
So we'll just take your 60% number. So 60% are using that. How many do you think is using just straight nitrogen as their fertigation program?
Oh, probably a lot. I'm not going to give a specific because I'll be wrong.
Well, I just like to prove you wrong. But anyways.
Here we go again.
But let's flip it out to Idaho.
Yeah.
How many pivots are running fertigation, and of that are running fertility besides nitrogen through it?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, we're the original ice age, so we got to set
there
the
it is.
standard high. I was coming for you.
Yeah, I knew. I've been waiting for it.
Fire with fire. I would say Idaho contributes a large percentage of the producers in Idaho they fertigate frequently with NPKs type blends. Now, not everybody runs phosphorus through their water in our system because phosphorus tends to precipitate with the high calcium load in our irrigation systems. I'm fortunate to have solutions that can easily fertigate through our water, no problem.
And I think, that's a unique thing as we've went down this journey as a group at Calibrated Agronomy, and just having your input is that stark difference.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that journey, how you guys got there, because you talked about, Luke hit on it with the baggage, and I think the concept, the mindset is a complete shift for some of these guys with these pivots. Because a lot of guys, at least the guys I've ran into that are running pivots, it's still a lot of dry, and then they just water and they put nitrogen through it, and that's kind of how they managed it.
Yeah.
But you guys have made that shift to take your water and make it part of your fertility program.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a unique and vital tool for people that have pivots or even any other irrigation form. Yeah. Really, if you're irrigating, you can take this practice to any form.
Anywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's drip irrigation, flood irrigation, if it's overhead pivots, or even pressurized sprinkler side roll type irrigation. It's just all applicable.
Yeah, and that's just that journey of how you guys got there, because I think it's so fascinating to me, that whole concept of making that water work for you like it was intended to, right?
Yeah. Well, I can give you that history. I mean, I'll give you the condensed version. So I've been fortunate to consult for a company called Rocky Mountain Agronomics out in Idaho. Yep. Founded by Kyle Carpenter and late Brad Bandy. And early on, those guys, they had they were in tune, and they knew that we had high water pH. They knew that we needed to do something about it, or inevitably our soil would become what our water is.
Mm-hmm.
And so early on, they bought into a Stoller franchise, which gave them access to acid fertilizer formulations. These were sulfuric acid formulations, phosphoric acid. And then over 30 years now, they've gradually added to, improved. We've built new formulations to make these acid fertilizer products more higher value, perform higher level of standard. And so that's from their infancy as a company. That's where they focused, but it stemmed from having like Jerry Stoller and those early guys that were so stinking smart had their influence. And so it's like there was a generation of old agronomists out there that they knew the water was poor. They knew what to do about it. And we were fortunate to be on the early adoption bandwagon and buy into that franchise. And so I've been in the game, 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had access to amending water for 17 years. So I feel like I'm a rare breed out there, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you guys got on that train real quick. You guys are dabbling in the acids as well.
Yep.
And because you recognize the challenge that's out there.
Yeah. And I think Luke can hit on the challenge and from just from what you've doing with tritation work and stuff and seeing the changes. And I think the thing that the other concept that we bring along here with Calibrated Agronomy and this whole water deal is the antagonisms.
Yep.
And I think that's a unique concept. And walk a guy through that, Luke, like the antagonisms, like what are we talking about? Like with soil and water specifically.
So antagonisms, there's numerous ones we see. Probably the most significant in the regional. Mm-hmm. Because, now that we've kind of scaled this, what the work you were doing, and now kind of have a method to go anywhere with it.
Yep.
And go anywhere with it and do this. It's regional for one. Some areas are way better than others. And the antagonisms change as you move around. And that's why you need to identify them. Probably one of the biggest ones is sodium. We see a lot of sodium and we see high sulfur. Now we think, we've talked about sulfur in that before, but you can have too much. You can have too much of a good thing. Right. So we always look at the cation balance and the anion balance. And so we'll struggle get into some of these wells where they carry huge natural loads of sulfur. And when I say huge, I'm talking 300 to 500 ppm.
Right.
So just think of the pounds.
You're 1,200 pounds, 1,400 pounds per acre foot.
Yeah.
Roughly.
So negative charge.
Yeah.
It will just outcompete phos. And it will cause where you cannot get access to phos.
Yeah.
And then on the cation side, we'll see, we'll say magnesium. There'll be areas where magnesium will outcompete calcium. And so our calcium levels are low. And now when we look at the soil with the DI water, it looks good.
Right.
But it's not until we put that water on with that antagonism do we just get everything all out of whack.
Yep.
And I'll give you an example on the fertigation side. So I've got a data set we ran. We were working with a guy who had a pretty big budget to fertigate through the season. And we were just, let's look at what different forms of nitrogen fertilizer in the water will do. Because we had already established we had a decent water. It wasn't terrible, but didn't need a whole lot of amending. But let's just see if there's an antagonism, and just a curiosity is all it was. So we just mimicked if we injected 10 gallon the acre on a pivot run of UAN, 10 gallon the acre on a pivot run of 26006, so a urea sulfuric based acid fertilizer. It's very common. You guys use it all the time, don't you? Yep. Not very common in the Midwest. Basically, what we found was that when we introduced all that UAN, there's so much nitrate in that UAN that it just completely outcompeted phos because they're both negatively charged. Where our rapid soil test went all the way to 0. No registerable phos. It had been tied somewhere else, had been driven out. And then on the cation side, we had okay calcium and potassium. We didn't really affect those. But then when we switched to the acid-based fertilizer, we didn't carry that nitrate along. Okay, so we maintained our phos numbers. We brought our sulfur numbers up a little bit, which we need, but we don't want too high. And on the cation side, because we use that acid fertilizer, we found that we had a lot of potassium tied up in the soil. And we released 40 pounds the acre of potassium by acidifying the solution, and released about 20 pounds the acre of calcium.
Right.
So now we had the same amount of ammonia in the system.
Got it.
So now our system has phos, sulfur, potassium and calcium ranked high, and we're carried along the nitrogen, the fertilizer we wanted, and we've got a good sulfur to nitrogen ratio.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I think and you did this 3 months ago, right? I mean, we're middle of June here, so we're doing this as we call paper farming.
Yep.
We can do that. That's what I like about it too, is we can kind of do these titrations, right, Luke, and kind of build a plan, right, Jared, and look at different forms of what may work.
Right.
I think that mending thing is so new to this Midwest that I'm really excited, because for me, we irrigate here. Yep. Right across the shop, Kelly's got 370 acres of drip. It's drip, but same concept applies. And every time we turn, our water's really crappy, right, Luke?
Yeah, it's like the worst one in the data set, actually.
High sulfate, high sodium.
Yeah.
But I've told you guys, if we turn this field on across the road on, kick that well on, and the crop goes back. I mean, you can just see it stress out.
You visually see it.
Yep, because of sodium load, sulfur, all that stuff. And we did, how do you fix it? Now I feel like we got a plan. We haven't, obviously it just rained here. So we're in Iowa, we get all the rain you don't get.
Yeah, you guys stealing from us.
Yeah. So, I actually want it to dry out so we can try some of this just to see what happens. But I think it's a unique thing that it becomes part of the fertilizer budget. And I think you're talking to guys and trying to get your head wrapped around that a little bit. But you work with a guy, and we'll have John probably on a different podcast out there by Kearney, whatever you want to call it, Nebraska.
Yep. Mike said it.
Yeah. I'm from Iowa. They're already going to give me some crap about it. But he started down this path.
Yeah.
And his water and his pivots. Kind of talking, you could solve with John, do a lot of work with John. We all kind of talk with him. Great guy. But he started down this path, and I think we'll talk about it in a different podcast, but I think his thought process is unique. He knows he's got a problem he needs to fix.
Right.
Otherwise he's going backwards. Kind of walk us through, because it's been a little bit of a journey for him and how you've kind of walked him through that to get to the point where he is today. Right. So just talk about that piece, because it's more relevant because he's in the Midwest.
Right. So John, I hate to steal his thunder. He's 6'6" and big guy. Like all you corn-fed guys are big boys. Us potato guys are a little more petite. But John he knew. I don't know if it was intuition or gut feel. He knew his water was a hindrance to him. Because I think for the same observations, just like you, Mike, out here, you turn on your drip irrigation, you see the crop goes backwards. John, the same boat. Start his pivots up, and immediately he just felt like his corn plants exhibited, even his soybeans that he irrigates, exhibited some sort of a stress.
Yep.
And so he knew he had some issues. And so I don't know what spurred him to this, but he had actually sent in his water test to a lab. So he had a water analysis back, but he didn't know how to interpret it. And so he was on the hunt for somebody to help him interpret what the water analysis meant. What's it telling him? And he and I connected. I think initially it was on Twitter back when I was playing that game. But anyway, since then shut down Twitter, but no big deal. That's irrelevant. But yeah, so John reached out to me asking if I could help him from something I put out there on Twitter. And so, yeah, he was relentless, man. He's like a bloodhound. Just wouldn't leave me alone. I was like, who's this guy from Nebraska calling me all the time? And for about a year, I made him earn it, man. It was cat and mouse. I'd tease him a little bit, but I got to see if this guy's really serious about it. And he was adamant he needed to do something about his water. And so we started connecting and I helped him understand what his water was. Because up until that point, he had never considered the mineral baggage in his water. It's H2O, man. It's good stuff. But I think what I helped him understand is that water is fertilizer. And if every irrigator out there will look at his water as if it's a fertilizer, and it has a known mineral load to it, it's going to change your thinking of how you treat that water.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what we've done with John. And so we deployed a strategy to take what his water is, and turn it into a new water, something that we want, something that's favorable to his crops. And he's been 2 years now into the system, and I think he would agree that he's starting to see some response.
Yeah.
It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to happen overnight. Because you think about the millions of pounds of water applied to these farms over how many years now? The problem wasn't created in a day, and it's not going to be fixed in a day. But we can have a positive change very quickly once we rearrange the minerals to what we want.
Yeah, I think that's such a unique thought process and a very foreign concept.
Yeah.
You know, water's got fertility. And I think, you know, for me, that was the struggle getting past that. Because I think I was like everybody else, you know, and we still get it today when people call in, and you guys probably see it too. It's like, first thing they'll go to is the pH.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my pH is high. How do I correct that? Well, we can go and try to correct it to 7 or where you want.
Right.
That was my first thought. I wanted to get rid of all the bicarbonates,
Dump it.
get all of it. You guys talk about going too far the other way too. And the nuance of this, it's really an art, I would call it, of handling this water.
Right.
Because you're the one, like, man, you don't want to burn. Well, I've done that. You don't want to burn all that out because you'd create another issue, right?
Yeah. Really, truly, everything affects everything. Every decision you make trying to mitigate water or amend water will affect something on the back end. If I dump the pH too low, drop the bicarbonate load, well, might solubilize more sodium.
Yeah.
I might kick more chloride loose, or I might make sulfur come more available. That's the whole wild card. And I'll throw one plug out to Luke and Clint there with Bioag Management. And well, even Mike, you've actually shared this too, but we're now starting to look at the biological profile of that irrigation water. What's the microbial organism spectrum in that water? My hunch, from our early analysis, it's bacterial dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Adding more emphasis on the organism management. Anyway, that's a side note. That's a teaser for all you folks listening today. We'll catch you next time on the more detail. But yeah, you're right on the money. You can take it too far. And I've seen many companies approach the market with that same attitude. We're going to dump the pH. We're going to eliminate bicarbonate. And man, they create so much baggage on the backside that you make your problem worse. So it's a finesse. It's a fine-tuned game you got to play. And that's why I think we've developed a really rock-solid system here to predetermine what those rates need to be if you amend the water.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen that just like he's seen. I mean, we're looking at sites all over the place. It's really interesting to see because sometimes, you know, I always like to do, when you're doing bench testing and just, you know, tabletop testing and stuff like that, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. So I can simulate putting $1,000 an acre of a product on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be just a little bit in a beaker.
Yeah.
I've seen places where and it's bad sometimes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's you got to understand that you need to look at it because it's different areas will be different. So this area might see that let's just burn the bike, or let's just drop it all the way to 4, see what releases.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's sodium, sometimes it's potassium, sometimes it's calcium, but you need to understand that. And you also need to understand, because another thing we've kind of seen with the data is if guys want to look at this and they think they have an issue, run this rapid soil test with where your irrigation runs and then your dryland corner.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Because there's places over time where we've built up antagonisms.
Yeah.
Because what you'll see is they'll run that test with the distilled water, the DI water, no baggage, and they'll run it on where it's irrigated and where it's not. And you'll see the distilled water rapid soil test will look like the irrigation water test because you're registering everything you've built up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a real thing. And it happens. And I've seen some sites that we need to look at fixing, you know, it's going to take, you know, soil amendments, you know, not just treating the water to fix it sometimes.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and we're talking, you know, kind of gnarly or nasty water that's loaded with baggage. There's some scenarios across this country in like spring runoff where you're dealing with mountain mountain runoff, where there's nothing in it. There's no baggage. It's pure H2O. And in those situations, we actually have to add the minerals in to bring the EC of that water up. And so that's the other end of the spectrum. We're talking focus this podcast just on what mineral baggage is already in existence. But then there's the other end of the spectrum as well.
Yeah, it's just an intriguing thing. To me, it's just something you take for granted a little bit, and it's just natural. Now I'm sitting here going, when I pull my water out of my house for my garden, what's the baggage in here?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's an interesting thing. So we made a lot of great points about baggage, and I think it would be kind of imperative for us to talk about a little bit of the economics in broad sense, right? Because like we were talking before we got on here, Luke, that there's a cost to put irrigation in, and whether, whatever you're doing, drip, flood, pivots, there's costs and there's maintenance costs. Absolutely. So it's an expense on the farm that you want to return on.
Yeah. And
when you see, like you said, you see those observations going on the field where the crop is starkly different from where you're not doing irrigation, it's a little tough pill to swallow. I mean, it is when I came down this road here and you turn pivot and you're like, what'd we do wrong?
Right.
And so there's an economic piece of that. When you talk about a broad spectrum, I mean, these guys invested to grow a better crop. And now I'm kind of plateauing. I may not be losing, but I hit a
wall. Yeah, you're not gaining. Yeah.
So what do I need to look at from an economic standpoint? Is equipment, obviously knowledge, but products. How's that transition happen? Or how's the guy take a path down that with the economics? Because there's money in it. You got to spend money, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know what a new pivot costs today, probably 150, 200,000. I'm not sure, but look at that cost alone. If you spend that much money and yet that delivery system, that water is taking you backwards on yield, it's going to take much longer to pay for that initial investment. So I think you need to consider what your water is. I think we got to do more testing. What your water is, your soil becomes. You've heard me say it 10,000 times.
Yep.
If I had $1 for every time I said it, I'd be buying you dinner today.
You would have bought that plane ticket.
I know. I bought the plane ticket. Yeah. So that's step number one. Consider what your water is. There's an operator I know in the West. He is a good candidate for this. He understands what his water is, and it's terrible. He pumps some junk, and he knows that. And so he's made the investment to buy lined pivots. So when he replaces one, he's buying it with a liner so he can get longevity out of that pivot, because the water he's pumping is very corrosive and it takes the galvanization off, and usually only gets about 10, 12 years out of a new pivot. So now he spends the extra to buy a liner. And now we've got him to the point where he's actually buying the liner plus amending the water. And so he inspires me for really overseeing the whole system of what he's dealing with. And I think that's what more farmers need to do today, is understand the whole system of what they're dealing with. And I think it starts with a simple water test, water analysis.
Yeah, and Luke, you can talk about that because, you've built that tool to build the economics in, and we can, I got 100, say that's me, and I got $100 to spend on my fertility. We can look at that with the water, like you say, the water test, the rapid soil. You've got that built in to scale what fits a guy's budget and what we feel is going to be efficient, right?
Yeah, and it's almost too cheap not to look at it. Right. You're going to spend the investment on this pivot. You at least need to look at that, and then it's not that difficult to, get a plan together. Find the baggage, we're going to put this pivot, we're going to spend all this money, because sometimes it doesn't cost that much to fix it.
Right.
Sometimes it does, and you got to change your strategy and look at moving your fall dry budget into the fertigation, and moving things around. But sometimes it's as simple as just, we need to sequester some sodium. And we can do that with backbone or fulvic acid or something like that. So yeah, I wouldn't want to not look at it, and run that rapid. And then, we have tools to run the economics for you and find out what it really will cost to do it. But sometimes it's too expensive, and sometimes you have to find another strategy. I see it with really high mineral dissolved solid waters. The alkalinity won't be that bad. And usually, honestly, Jared, if I were to lay and do a comparison, the pH usually isn't that high in those.
Right. Yeah.
So you look at just the pH, everyone focuses on it, it's like, oh, that's only a 7.8, 7.9.
Right.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
Bicarbonate, 300, 350. I mean, it's a little higher, but it's not terrible.
Right.
But then you go down and there's 900 parts per million dissolved, mineral dissolved solids.
Yep.
And it just takes more amendments to fix it.
Right.
So you got to be aware of that.
Right.
And maybe we're just going to be able to help it along a little bit, just sequester a little bit, just run a little bit, get the pH down just a little bit, but enough to help beat back the antagonism. We can't afford to completely get rid of it, but
yeah. See, because really, it's not uncommon. Just to give our listeners some perspective, it's not uncommon in a per acre foot basis. It's not uncommon to see 600, 700 pounds of bicarbonate delivered. Not uncommon to see 200, 300 pounds of calcium, 80 to 120 pounds of sodium. It's not uncommon to see 300-400 pounds of chloride. That's what's being delivered to your farm via the water. And so putting it in that perspective, in actual pounds of mineral applied, it's kind of mind-blowing. Yeah. And some of those with those really high total dissolved solids, you had upwards of 2,000 pounds of sulfur. Challenge is it's not in the right plant available form, but that's what's being delivered. And it still has an antagonistic characteristic to the soil because it has a charge. Every one of these minerals has a positive or negative charge.
Well, I was going to say, if you don't do a little bit work up front, say you're putting in a new pivot and you don't even think about it, you can get to the position 15 years down the road. Yeah. Where we've built up so much in the soils. Now we've got a real problem. Because that's really hard to fix.
Because how much, pound for pound, how much bicarbonate ties up what?
Oh, I say it's pound for pound. 1 pound of bicarb ties up a pound of cation. Calcium, mag, potassium, sodium, ammonium even. Yeah. That might not be scientifically accurate, but as we've done this over 30 years, that's really our gut feel. Is 1 pound of bicarb ties up 1 pound of available beneficial mineral nutrition.
So if a guy goes out and spreads 200 units of potash on his irrigation, but then he's putting 600 pounds of bicarb through the year on, is he getting value out of that potash?
Probably a small percentage. Honestly,
it's from what it was on a dryland scenario. It's probably on the area that irrigation is shrunken. Could you say?
Absolutely.
I mean, he's going to get some, but
He'll get some, but yeah, it's
that nutrient use efficiency kind of goes. Gets worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was fascinating. We discussed as a group when you start bringing that up, and it's like, oh, that's another net negative that we got to account for.
Right.
So, what's the plan? Because it's middle of June here. We just got rain, but we're going to get into July and August here, and it's going to typically dries off for us in the Midwest still. And guys are going to start running irrigation. Now they're sitting here listening to us be like, I haven't done any of this. And now I'm concerned because I'm starting to see things that Jared's talking about or what he's seen or what Luke, Clint, or whatever any of us talked about. What do I do in season today to start trying to correct my issue that I see?
I'd say get curious again. Bottom line, get curious. And start measuring every variable of influence on the farm. That's what you have to do. You got to measure if you expect to manage. We just can't emphasize that enough. I think it's a call to action for all agronomists in the country. If you call yourself an agronomist and you're not pulling a water test, well, time to start. Bottom line. And I think that's what needs to happen. We need to get back to the fundamental basics of agronomy and start measuring every variable that influences the crop yield and crop performance.
Yeah, and it's simple to do. I mean, how I'd lay it out for a guy to actually go out and physically pull and what's test to run. Water test. So we run the traditional irrigation test like everybody does. A lot of times they don't know how to interpret it, but you need to have that. That's very important. Pull if it's a new pivot or newer irrigation, pull a rapid soil in a representative spot of the field under the pivot. And then when we send that in, you're going to get back at least at minimum that comparison result.
Your benchmark.
Your benchmark comparison result of what does the release or what is available in solution if I use the distilled water, DI water, and what changes when I turn my pivot on. If it's a long established irrigation site, I would do that same deal, pull the water test, pull the rapid underneath. I would go out to the dryland corner and pull one there. And then we're going to do deionized distilled water rapid soil test. And then we're going to have them put that irrigation water on the virgin dryland soil. So now I've got a comparison of what I've built up over time under the pivot.
Yep.
And I've got the DI waters, the clean waters. And then I got a proof positive virgin soil test over here to prove back that it's the water that's caused this
You
to
can
happen.
compare against back to every year as you pull samples. Money.
Yep.
Solid play.
Yep. Great stuff, Luke. Great stuff, Jared.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Evans. If you got any other questions or comments or want to start a new journey on your irrigation at your farm, feel free to reach out to us at Calibrated Agronomy, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Blueprints of Yield.